Hey everyone, welcome to another Fountain of Youth with Andy and Amanda. Um, so I was going to say we've been absent for a few weeks. You haven't been absent. You've been a rock star, Amanda. I've been absent for a couple of weeks now. Putting together the whole master class and everything. But so much have been surfacing over mainstream media. Maybe not quite mainstream media, depending on which media you're following, right?
Well,
Uh,
yeah. Where have if you are watching this,
yes.
your algorithm likely has you in the know of the things that we're talking about.
I love it. I love it. Right. And, it's one of the things that me and Amanda were just talking about right before we started is like, as people to help, as practitioners to help people with holistic health care, right? Ways to elevate your body to repair itself, ways to prevent poisons and toxins from getting into your body, whichever way is going to be coming in through food, air, injections, or whatever. We are always on the forefront of breakthroughs that I'm excited about. I hope Amanda's just excited about it as I am. And, because she never knows what we're going to talk about before we hop on. So she's always a rock star.
Going under the bus.
She's my rock. She's my rock. And today I told her, I said, look, did you see what happened on Monday? Because I think it is a very big breakthrough that I've been sharing for the last 12 to 15 years. And people called me anti-vaxxer. But more so about all the health conditions that people are seeing. So the topic I wanted to talk about is your immune system too active? Is it out there to kill you? So I really wanted to touch base on that because, normally a lot of people think that the immune system is a good thing. And in general, I think the immune system is so important for our health, right? Like when it's working properly, when it's balanced, right? You got, it's just like our bodies will get a little bit of inflammation when something happens, like you cut your finger, you get some inflammation, the blood congeals up, it gets all red, you get a little bit of heat, fights the infection, and then your body heals, right? But once you have chronic inflammation, that's when your body's immune system just goes a little crazy. And a lot of people don't know that when your immune system is too active, that's when problems start to rise. Amanda, what are your thoughts on that? I love
Oh,
throwing you under the
goodness.
bus, but you got so much insight, working for a medical field back in the day, and with your holistic side of things. And I know your beliefs are very similar to mine. We want to help people as naturally as possible.
As naturally as possible. And my big thing in helping people is to help them make sure they've done their due diligence in looking at what options are available. I don't want
Hmm.
I don't want anybody to just go, oh well, Andy said, Amanda said, my doctor
Yeah,
said, my pharmacist said. Do your research. You've got one body in this game. You
exactly.
take good care of it and make the best informed decisions you can. Things that work for your mom may not work for you. Things that work for your brother, whatever. So be aware that your body is an individual. So first off,
Correct.
know your body, know what works. I mean, I had a gal that used to work for me, and she could hold a Tylenol in her head and get the effect on in her hand and get the effects. She was so extremely sensitive to everything.
Hmm.
Drinking caffeine was not on the board for her.
Correct.
And then we have other people who will get a triple espresso shots added to their afternoon coffee. Um, you know, so knowing your body, I think, is first and foremost important. And then looking at what your immune system does, what its
Hmm.
role is. Its role is when you're exposed to something, it's to create the antibody so that if you're exposed to it again, your body's better prepared to fight it off.
Correct.
And
I love it.
that was one of the things that we saw during, lockdowns and stuff. People were over sanitizing. They
Hmm.
were using antibacterial soap on everything, every surface, everything.
Yep.
you need to, I say, you got to challenge your immune system. You got to
Yes.
keep it working. If you're in a sanitary situation, you don't get that. We had a friend of the family who had, and she was a miracle child. Her
Mhm.
conception, there was absolutely nothing that was normal about it. It was a miracle that her conception happened. She was a regular normal child, other than her parents restricted her from playing outside,
Correct.
having pets. If a dog were to lick her face like my dogs do, it's like, oh no, they had to go sanitize the poor child. Her first year of kindergarten,
Yeah.
she was out sick. Her
Hmm.
body had not built those antibodies to those day-to-day things. So
Yes.
immune system is good. But then when in order for you to have an immune response to something, you had to be exposed to it. And so when we
Mhm.
see newborn babies, the first time they are given an antibiotic and they have an allergic reaction to it, that's an over response of the immune system. It To create an allergic response, they had to have had it some other time, and most likely they're getting it through their food chain.
Mhm.
We're not dosing our kids ourselves, hopefully, um, but you're getting it in the food chain, and so being aware of all the things that are there. Then when you come down to autoimmune things, there are people out there who say that autoimmune isn't really a thing. It's that the body is over challenged, it's overstimulated. And in the autoimmune response, it's the body is attacking itself, leading to that inflammation and all those things that we can no
Mhm.
longer combat. So, being aware of everything you expose yourself to. And I think the biggest thing that we can control that we're exposed to is what we put in our body. And that's
Mhm.
all the different routes that you talked about. You
Yes.
know, if there's a bad air environment, change your environment. If it's bad food that you're putting through your system,
Mhm.
change your diet. And your diet is your daily habit. What are you consuming every day? Yes, we're all gonna grab a ramen noodle every once in a while, not every single day. Hot dogs, all those things that are on the don't do list. It doesn't mean you
Correct.
never can do. You talked earlier about balance and
Yeah.
moderation. I think moderation is the big word for a lot of people. And then
Mhm.
on the things you have choices about, um, our bodies are magnificent things. They will heal themselves if they're given an opportunity. When you
Correct.
get a strain or a sprain and you're told stay off it for 6 or 8 weeks, who does that? I mean, come on. Wha we'll wrap it and we'll bandage it, and then we'll start
Take it off.
drinking
Walk it
Dion.
off.
Yeah, but if it were broken
Yes.
and you
That
put it
would be
in a
different.
cast,
Yes.
you don't have as much problem, but it takes the same time to heal a strain or a sprain as it does
Correct.
a broken bone.
Correct. Correct.
So think of those healing things and what we're doing to allow our bodies to heal. When you isolate a sprain or a strain or you isolate a bone, you're allowing the body to heal it itself.
Correct.
And
Exactly.
Regina last week was doing if you cut your hand, you're not sitting there going heal, 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 heal. The body's just going to come and it's going to do its process. Your platelets, all the things are coming and rushing in and healing itself. The same thing works with your gut, with your mind.
Mhm.
If you give it a chance, a
Exactly.
fever, your body's a response to a fever. That's your body doing its thing.
It's actually
A
a good thing.
fever is a
Exactly.
response to a bacteria. Your body's heating itself up to kill off that bacteria.
Mhm.
But so many of us rush, or so many individuals, myself not included, rush and grab that acetaminophen, that fever
Yes.
reducer, and force that fever down. Your body didn't get a chance to heal itself.
Mhm.
And how much longer are you sick? In my house, you had to hit a temperature over 101 before I treated it.
Correct. Correct. I love that. I love that. What you're saying there is so true. And, I think, before we go any further, I do want to say we're not doctors, so we don't
Nope.
diagnose or treat. These are our opinions. These are news that we're excited to share, right? And the latest studies, of course. And me and Amanda don't do the studies, But maybe some of them we do. But anyway,
We have
uh,
a lot of we have personal and life experience. And you
exactly,
and I, our bodies have been through a lot of stuff, you know,
exactly,
and
right.
we've followed different trends to see what works for us. And what works for me is not necessarily going to work. So have a
Mhm.
time frame, yeah, check your sources.
Right. But one of the things that you were talking about was pretty amazing because it's like do your research, right? Check your sources. Like for water, like I'm always telling people when people thinking they're drinking the water and oh, I got cleanest water, EWG, right, .org/water. They can literally tell you how bad your water is, right? Just
Yeah.
because the city says it's safe doesn't mean it's safe, right? So, there are easy ways to check your water,
Mhm.
right? For foods, right? EWG does some studies for you for the clean 15, the dirty dozen, right? And but a lot of people like glyphosate, pesticides, like those are red flags nowadays, and most people know about that, right? So that's still once again fairly easy to figure out. But when it comes down to what Trump and RFK was talking about this week, which is stirring the pot dramatically, is vaccines for kids, like right from the beginning, right? And I don't know if you remember because as kids we don't really remember much, but I know the max vaccines I got in my whole life, including probably the flu vaccines I occasionally got, was maybe 8, like from the time I was born till till where I am now, right? And looking back, just thinking back, I didn't have too many friends that were obese. Diabetes was definitely not a thing.
No.
Like, for kids, like not a thing.
Not
Not
a
a thing.
thing. No,
Right.
no, we all ate whatever we want to our heart's content.
Exactly. There were no autistic friends. And like, study shows like 1 in 10,000 back in the day. Like, we're aging ourselves. I'm aging you, man. I'm sorry. But growing up, like it's 1 in 10,000 kids, right? And studies now is 1 in 30, depending on which states you're. Like 1 in 36, I think, for boys, but I think in California it's 1 in 24. So think about
Wow.
that. 1 in 24 is autistic. What's changed? And it's like I'm sure, like you said, people aren't dosing themselves by drinking crappy water and eating bad foods because they got the education what to look for there.
Mhm.
So if you're already eating well, drinking clean water, what is the outside source that's causing all these problems, right? And the interesting thing is like the study's been always out there, but it's been covered up. And finally now, it's sort of nice that people are finally peeling back the curtain and showing the education. And the funny thing is a lot of people are going to call me anti-vaxxer after today. um but the point is like, given the information you got, you still get to decide what you want to do,
Oh, absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So, for me, it's all more about, well, I think people should be more transparent with the information, right? It's like, for instance, I was just talking with a friend today, and they're saying that they have someone in the family that has blood clot in the body now, right? But he's, oh yeah, but he, they had a heart attack 45 years ago. But now in the last year, he's gone to the hospital several times, got a heart attack, and so on and so forth. And he says, well, Andy, I don't understand. Like he was so healthy. He changed his diet, he exercised for 40 something years. He was totally healthy, right? And now he's been in a hospital like 3 or 4 times in the last 6 months, right? And the doctors don't know why. And he said, oh, he's 80 something. He's old. This just happens. And I was saying, are you listening to what you're saying? You told me for 40 something years, totally healthy, and now within the last half year, it's almost like a switch turned on that you go in the hospital, no explanation, blood clots, heart attacks, no explanation. And now they're telling, oh, it's because his heart was injured 45 years ago. It's come back now. And I think things happen gradually. It's not an on-off switch, right? And it's just interesting. And then I said, maybe I was just asking because, in a chronic health collective, masterclass, I interviewed Nicholas Huscher, right? And he was documenting all the studies, how the COVID vax has damage, and heart damage is one of them, right? And it's their studies, like 300,000 people in Italy, their studies on, damage to the heart. And he says, Andy, there's no studies out there. No one's talking about it. It's just what you're saying. I said, it's not what I'm saying. The studies are out there. You are just not following the sources that are showing you the studies. Right.
And I think that it is hard.
Yeah.
It is hard to find those sources because they have been so brushed under the carpet,
Yes.
and there is so much control in the media that it's almost like you need to have your own black web of
I know.
sources so that you
Correct.
can sort through it. I mean,
Exactly.
and that's so sad. I mean, here we talk about the freedom of speech, and that's our
Mhm.
big claim to fame here in the
Yes.
United States. But your freedom to speak about what you're allowed to speak about, and
Correct.
that's and I know that's gonna that could derail us horribly.
Yeah. Now
We're
you're
not going there, but just that you
Turkey.
the information that we're talking about, the kinds of studies we're talking about,
Mhm.
those are not going to be headlines on the newspaper on your
Right.
front porch.
Yes.
It's not, because they don't make money.
Exactly.
And this
Exactly.
still goes back, and I'm gonna have to look it up. When Louis Pasteur came out with the first medication, that first
Mhm.
vaccine, that first, I almost think it was penicillin is what I think it was. But anyway,
I
Louis
believe it is
Pasteur,
penicillin, actually.
yeah, when he came out with penicillin, and there was another doctor at the exact same time that was saying, if you're healthy,
Mhm.
you don't need penicillin.
Mhm.
Healthy people don't get sick. And so he
Correct.
was pushing nutrition,
Mhm.
eating good foods and taking care of yourselves and not exposing, the sleep and all the things that we know to do.
Correct.
And then, but there was money to be made by
Yes.
having penicillin, then people could do whatever they want and we could fill it all in with penicillin, I
Mhm.
guess. But so taking care of yourself and being healthy, that got shut up. That got
Yeah.
quashed because
Mhm.
we now have the saving device, this
Correct.
penicillin.
Correct.
And I think that kind of has that set the pace, and that's where I feel all of this is. Follow the money. Follow the money. And
It
which is
is
so
so true.
sad.
Yes, it is, and like, it's tough because I know you have family in the medical field,
Mhm.
sometimes, which is tougher, right? But you are actually seeing it as, you're seeing it where other people aren't seeing it, right? So it is
Right.
so true. Um, and all I have to say is, like, there's 72 shots for kids up until high school. Like, that's a lot, right? And now you got people with like peanut allergies, you got people with gluten allergies, and dairy allergies, and there's allergies against eating meat now. There's actually
Oh, there are. Yeah.
I'm just gonna see someone put something out there. I'm not gonna name them, or people's just gonna crucify me again. But he designed something that will actually make you allergic to beef, which is crazy. They just want us eating bugs, right? And
You gotta
like,
pick their
I'm not
wings
trying to
off
get out
first.
there, right? But it's funny growing up. I drank raw milk, right? No problems, right? We actually got our milk delivered to our door in those glass bottles from the farm, and it was like to the door. It was even in the refrigerator. It's like now I think back, I was saying, wow, that was crazy. It's like, mind you, Vancouver's not as hot as Texas, but still. There's no refrigeration. They just left it at the door, right? And you remember to pick it up when you want to, and then you just drink it. But
But you had that milk delivered on a regular basis.
yes.
You were not getting a gallon of milk to
Mhm.
last you for 2 weeks in the fridge.
Exactly.
It was the whole milk, the whole product.
Yes.
It does not go bad by itself. When having daughters,
Mhm.
we're not milk drinkers in this house, but when there was milk, if the girls wanted to drink it, I
Yeah.
always bought organic milk.
Correct, correct.
That organic milk would sit in the refrigerator and outlast any homogenized milk that was there. It would
Mhm.
by weeks, by
Correct.
weeks. So I think that that's a big part is,
Mhm.
and I know we've talked about this some, the whole food stabilization. What
Yes.
we've done to food to make it last. People
Correct.
used to go to the market every day. We went
Mhm.
to the farmer's market. We bought fresh produce. We weren't expecting to stock a whole entire refrigerator. We didn't buy these giant refrigerators for a family of two and shove it full and never go back to the store for a month.
Exactly.
So when
Exactly.
when we've done that, we've altered the food that we're putting in our body.
Mhm.
So it's not the same food.
Exactly.
And in the 80s, they took chromium out of white bread.
Mhm.
There is my secret version of what happened to the diabetes. You
Mhm.
took chromium out of the white bread. You keep enriching the grains, enriching the
Mhm.
grains. They aren't even grains by the time they make it to your table.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
there's
You
one
know,
of
and I love that, because like we're talking about, causing our body's immune system to be hyperactive. And like you said, all these foods, all these chemicals, all these preservatives are adding in. Our body doesn't recognize it as food,
No, it
right?
doesn't. It does not. Does not at all. And then you've got your body just doesn't even know what to do with it. And, the
Exactly.
same thing when we're putting in medications and, we've
Mhm.
got these long, if you can't pronounce it, you should not be putting it in your body. I love those commercials, you know? And then I just saw a reel here in the last couple of weeks. Someone went through the grocery store
Yeah.
and read the labels on a, like, hot dog and mac and cheese dinner
Correct.
and and counted the number of ingredients.
Yeah.
And so for a simple meal, hot
Mhm.
dogs and mac and cheese, you had, I don't know, 70 or 80 different ingredients.
Correct, correct, correct.
That's our bodies don't, yeah, we can't do that. We can't do that. But that's become typical. And
Yes.
so much of it is preservatives. And I just see my own health when I started eating clean and
Mhm.
my doctor made fun of me, like, oh, eating clean. Yeah, what's that? No, that means cutting out those preservatives, the things you
Yes.
tell other people to say, you're preaching it as a doctor, but when someone says I'm eating clean and you're interpreting the words, and that's the thing too, is know what it is that you're rooting for, what your purpose in how you're doing what you're doing. It doesn't mean that every once in a while we don't have something that's
Mhm.
unclean, but you just look at all the things that are allowed here in the United States that are not allowed in other countries.
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
preservatives, the food dyes, the ingredients, the medications, the way the
Mhm.
medications are given. I read the study about the time that when statins were involved in the 80s,
Mhm.
when statins became a part of everything. Originally we had this cholesterol level we thought everyone should be at, and then
Mhm, mhm.
everyone was getting it pretty easily.
Correct, correct.
So they lowered that so that it
Mhm.
would force the issue of taking a prescription medication that you could only get this level if you take the prescription.
Exactly.
But what they also didn't include is what happens to your body when you take that statin, your body's not able to produce CoQ10.
Mhm.
In every other country, when a physician prescribes a statin, they are
Mhm.
required by law to prescribe CoQ10 as well.
That's amazing. That's something I didn't know. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I mean, and then it comes down to the whole, glucosamine and chondroitin. The
Mhm.
chondroitin molecule, if you don't create it naturally when you take it, it's too big to be absorbed, so you're wasting your money. I mean, there's
Mhm.
those type of things that people don't understand. They're like, "Oh, well, I saw a commercial that says I should take this for knee pain, I should take this for whatever," and it's look at how you can activate this is what I encourage you. Look at how
Mhm.
you can activate your body to be as healthy as possible. If it's obesity, if it's diabetes, what got you there? Eating what you
Exactly.
were eating was probably part of the problem.
Yeah.
Genetics, I'm not buying it, folks.
Correct.
I'm not buying it. I
Correct.
just now type 1, yes, I do think
Yes.
there's a genetic link there, but I
Correct.
think that so much of it is learned behavior as well. I just had this conversation with another coach the other day. I said, "Well, how much of this is learned behavior? Do we really eat this poorly or are we socialized are we ingrained that this is how we need to eat? In different regions of the country, we eat differently. When I lived in upstate New York, we ate a lot of rice and gravy.
Mhm.
When here in the Midwest, it's mashed potatoes, noodles, and gravy. Uh, you know, what are what are you eating? What's regional? What's
Correct.
available to you?
Correct. What you said about regional is so important because that means it's fresh, it's
Mhm,
whole, right? And, some of the things you're talking about, which is what I think is really driving chronic inflammation, getting our bodies not to, recognize when your body's going nuts, is what did our bodies get stimulated to be allergic to certain things, right? It's like
mhm,
right now the gluten-free craze is just nuts, right? Everyone's buying gluten-free, but if you look at any of the thing that's labeled gluten-free, like the pizzas, there's nothing natural about any of this stuff, right? Like you're basically eating fake stuff right off the carton, right? And because when people say go gluten-free, no one ever will say, well, I'm not gonna eat a hamburger anymore. I'm never gonna eat a pizza anymore, right? They're going to try alternatives, right? And the
mhm,
funny thing is all these alternatives is just chemicals, right? Which just makes our body sicker again, more inflammation, right? And at some point, your body's trying to fight all this inflammation. At some point, it's either just gives up or, it just goes crazy, when it's too overactive, right? And that's when things can develop into autoimmune when it starts attacking itself.
mhm,
So it's funny because like when I talk to a lot of my clients, and I got to tell you, I had at one point I had like 8 clients I was training for personal training, right? That I kept over from COVID, right? Remotely. I have lost 3 of them now. All of them developed either Parkinson's, some unknown autoimmune condition where they can't work out anymore, or some heart condition, right? And yet they have no clue why.
mm.
Perfectly healthy before. They are super fit. If you look at them, they've been eating clean, they've been exercising. Like you said, they were doing everything right. But in the last 2 years now, and they're young, like 2 of them is only 45.
That's so young to not be
You
able to do.
don't say, and they went to their doctors, right? And one of them says, "Well, you have an autoimmune condition. We don't know what triggered it. We don't know what's the cause." Right now, they've been on prednisone for over a year.
Mm.
Right, exactly. The other person develops,
The homeopath in me just screams and cries because
exactly, but
we
it manages
have
the symptoms, right?
I mean, if you look at okay, let's take away bashing or critiquing
Yes.
the food system.
Hmm.
Let's look at all the other things. Let's look
Hmm.
at all of the aluminum.
Yes.
Let's look at all the plastic.
Hmm.
We are now finding all those when you're taking blood samples, we are now
Yeah.
finding those metals floating around
In our
in blood.
bloodstream.
The same
Yep.
thing with the plastic floating
Yep.
around in blood. And so homeopathy has done what they do. They
Hmm.
have figured out how to detox you from all of these things.
Hmm.
The polymetal, the plastics, and,
Correct.
all of the other things that we're exposed to, as long as, it's kinda like it gets nooked into our body doesn't know what to do with it, doesn't know how to process it,
Hmm.
so it wraps it up in a neat little package and tucks it away for someday we might need it, until someday we might
Exactly.
need too many things,
Yeah.
and then it just blows up, and that's why we get these problems that we do,
Yes.
and so having a way to safely and systematically detox things, and it's not a violent detox. I mean, it's
Hmm.
you do the pellets and you're finished with it, you know?
Correct. 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 Correct.
So I just yeah, it's so hard. And I know like when I was in college in the 90s, I'll date myself, um, studying rehabilitation. They, you're looking at the pockets of different disorders and where they are.
Mm.
Multiple sclerosis, MS,
Hmm.
is so abundant in the Midwest. And what do
Correct.
we have here? We have it's where all the plants are. That's where all the glycophates are.
Yes.
All of the chemicals that we're just,
Yes.
you can have a water purifier on your
Mhm.
countertop, but what is still out everything else that you're doing?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
It is, but so let's talk about, an overactive immune system because that's what I wanted to touch base on, right? Because obviously now the studies are showing it does freak out your immune system,
Mhm.
right? Not just for autism and other stuff like that. But we're seeing, like I said, freaking out your immune system to trigger autoimmune, to trigger heart conditions, to even triple cancer, right? That's a real thing now. That term came out 2 years ago. People thought that, the doctors are seeing it, we're calling them nuts, but it's a real thing now. I think it's actually a term, like in the dictionary, triple cancer, right? What should people be doing with their immune system? Like, because like you said in the very beginning, it's like our bodies, when it's exposed naturally to certain things, right? Doesn't matter if it's a virus, is it, bacteria, or you cut yourself, or, infection, your body normally should have the ability to repair itself, right? But like I said, now with the food, the air, and all the multiple jabs, regardless which one you got, there's so much toxins and poison from the adjuvants, like you said, the mercury, the lead, and SV40. People don't know what it is. Google what SV40 is. It'll scare the hell out of you. But that's in the vaccines, right? Like, why the hell is it in there if you're just trying to stop COVID? Like, you know what I'm saying? So, these are things that if they labeled it on a sheet of paper, this is what's in it. Are you okay getting it? And you look at it, yeah, I'm okay. Then I think that would be fine, to be honest, right?
Mhm.
Because like all we're talking about is people should be educated what they're putting inside their body, right? But when they tell you it's safe and effective, blank piece of paper, vetted by, I'm not going to label the 3-digit people that's vetted it and want to get myself a target on my back. But it's vetted by professionals that is safe and effective. And you just sort of say, oh, okay, let's do it, right? It's sort of like you said. It's like, would you go pick up a can of paint and drink it if someone said it's safe? Like, it doesn't make
Well,
sense,
and
right?
and I think that that's kind of that misnomer of they are a person in a place of power of they're paid.
Yes.
When I go to, I mean, I go to my beautician to have my hair done because
Mhm.
I expect that they are an
Yeah.
educated person and they are not
Mhm.
going to, you know, do something horrible with my hair,
Correct. Correct.
and I think that we have that blind faith.
Hmm.
Someone is put in a position of, um, being educated, being paid, being,
Hmm.
thought at, you have to do your own vetting of people and
Yes.
what they're saying and those things. And I think when we come back to cancer, if we look at what cancer is,
Hmm.
cancer comes from any cell that is damaged
Hmm.
and then gets reproduced as a damaged cell at a
Correct.
high rate of speed.
Hmm.
So any cell can become cancerous, but it's
Yes.
what is damaging our cells, but not damaged enough that it gets taken out of the body through the autophagy and all those other
Yep. Mhm,
mechanisms that we have. How does that cell slip by
mhm.
and then reproduce itself at such an accelerated rate to become cancer?
Exactly. And one of the things that, since you brought up cancer, and I know I brought it up first, but since you brought up cancer, a lot of people don't realize we got cancerous cells in our body all the time. Like all the time. Like, I'm sitting here, we got cancer cells in our body, right? But it's sort of like what you said, is your body using autophagy to clear it out? Or is something going to continue to damage it to get you to the next stage? Right. And it is a fine balance, right? So I think that's why when it comes down to it, our body is trying to get that balance. And depending on what you're putting in your body, that's what's going to feed or quell that cancer cell, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and looking at, and we talked about it on one of the other shows, having your body in an acidic environment,
Yes.
it just perpetuates that. So what is an acidic environment? What is a basic environment? And how do you make those changes? I mean, I think that's one of those things that you can
Hmm.
be aware of. You know, an
Yes.
acidic environment is acidic foods that we eat, orange
Mhm.
juice, coffee, tea,
Mhm.
tomatoes. Those are all acidic foods.
Correct.
Basic foods is, so we're talking about the pH scale here.
Yes.
And pH goes from 0 to 14. 7 is right in the middle. 7
Hmm.
is not acidic and not basic. And so
Yeah.
we're looking at things that are more neutral. And so
Hmm.
when you're looking at your higher pH waters, whether they're a
Hmm.
structured water or
Correct.
um, I just I get a little worried because I know you can alter water by adding baking soda to make it more basic, and so is the water truly structured? Is it truly ionized, or has
Yep.
someone added the
Correct.
concern with adding your baking soda is adding the heavy metal to it.
Yes. Yes.
There
Because
there's my rabbit
of
hole.
course, the
Hopefully
baking
hopefully kept it to the surface there. But
soda.
looking at consuming more foods that are on the basic end and not on
Mhm.
the acidic end in order to help your body to not become in that acidosis state that absolutely supports and accelerates cancer.
Correct. Correct.
And then there's other things that, you can do. Like you have the PMEF mat, PM,
Yep.
I mean,
PMF map. Yep. Yep.
yeah, and those mats that have heat.
Yes.
Cancer doesn't live in a warm body.
Correct.
Cancer lives in a cool body.
Hmm.
So spending time on a biomat or another
Yes.
mat that helps to raise your body's temperature. I mean, there's some things that we can do to help combat it. The first
Correct.
thing
Correct.
is to, and I saw the reel that says, mammograms,
Hmm.
you know, prevention, that method of detection. And I know working in the medical office, there were a lot of patients who are like, my mom did it every year. She played that game every year and she
Hmm.
still ended up with breast cancer.
Yep.
And it's a procedure, the amount of radiation that,
Hmm.
what's doing more damage. It's like the sunscreen or no sunscreen.
Yep.
What do you do? And that's where you need to do your due diligence and you need
Correct.
to have your reasons that you have researched that you feel comfortable with.
Hmm.
And because your decisions on how you take care of yourself are going to be reflected on your family members. You know,
Exactly.
I'm gonna
Exactly.
make good decisions because I don't want my kids to have the burden of having to take care of me early in
Mhm.
life, you know? Now when I'm
That
90
is
or
so true.
100, that's okay, I can take
Yeah.
some help then. But
Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. We'll
yeah,
see.
we'll see, but, like you say, we humans have the ability to live so much longer, and
Right.
we saw that where the life expectancy was up nearly 90 years old, but now it's going backwards, and
In the
people are
last four
not living.
years, it's literally in the last 4 years.
So so
I think
what's
we've
going on?
dropped down
What's
to
changed?
38 now, right? So
Yeah.
exactly. Right. And people aren't asking the right questions. But, one of the things that you're talking about, mammograms, of course I'm a dude. And I always tell people there are better ways, like there's what is that term?
I think it's thermography, thermo being
Yes,
heat,
yes,
so heat
exactly.
sensing.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. But anyways, it's the same analogy. I remember as kids when you get a pimple, if you pop the pimple, what happens? Now you spread it all over your damn face, right? So, with mammograms, with the compression, imagine your body actually, captures cancer, surrounds it so it gets isolated, and then your
Mhm.
body will try to kill it and and get it out of your body. But now you got something that's just gonna squeeze and pop it, and now it's all over your body. And then now you wonder why is it spread to other parts of your body. You have to do a little bit of research, and like it's very common sense, right? It's like a water balloon, you pop it, now you got water everywhere, right? So
Yep.
like I said, it's the same thing for anything in our body. Is like our bodies has the natural ability to try to fight whatever it needs to fight, regardless if it's cancer, viruses, but if you have other ways that is preventing the fight it, or you're bursting that bubble, then then your body can go one of two ways. You're either going to get really sick because they can no longer handle it anymore, or it's going to go into overdrive mode and now it attacks everything, right? So, it really is about the balance when it comes down to your immune system. So coming down to immune system, like I said, I always talk to you, let's keep this short, and we always run long.
No, not us.
Right. Me and Amanda, we love LifeWave products, right? And there's a lot of studies, attacking Tylenol now. And I got to tell you, I took in so much Tylenol number 3, and if people don't know what number 3 is, it's much worse than number 1. All right, let's put it that way, right? Like a lot of people think it's maybe it's a more mild Tylenol. It is not mild, and back in the day from my chronic pain, that's where it started, and it eventually went into Vicodin. But all they told me back then is all it does is cause you constipation. They do not tell you all the other things that happen, right? And one of the things that we always talk about is glutathione, how that boosts your immune system, how that lowers inflammation. But Tylenol actually lowers glutathione, right? So here you are, like you mentioned a little bit about the flu. As soon as you got a fever, people are reaching for a Tylenol, the baby Tylenol, and they're trying to bring the temperature down. But that's how your body fights the flu, right? Because the heat actually kills the virus, right? But
Well, it's going to
now,
kill the bacteria, not a virus, but a
I mean the
bacteria,
bacteria, yes,
in
right,
my understanding.
yes, right, and then now you're depleting glutathione also, which is the way that it protects your immune system, right? So glutathione is always important. That's one of the things we like to talk about. Lowering inflammation, just so it's in balance, is always important, right? And then of course it comes down to stem cells. A lot of people don't think about stem cells. Stem cells is your body's, innate intelligence. I've been talking about innate intelligence. No one's talking about it. Everyone's talking about AI. I'm talking about II. Right. And, stem cells is your innate intelligence to go where it's damaged. Right. But, the problem is there's so much damage going on. Like we're literally getting shotgun with shotgun pellets, that there's so much damage in our body that our body doesn't even know where to repair first. Right. So even if you had stem cells, whatever little stem cells you have, where is it going to go? Like literally, you got fires throughout the cities, not just one building. It's every single building. What are you going to do, right? So obviously, we want to, you know, calm your immune system down, right? Make it a little stronger for those that are weak, right? We want to lower inflammation, and then we want to increase your stem cells, right, to help you do the repair, right? It's almost like a step 1, 2, 3, right? And that's why, when I was introduced to LifeWave products, and once again, we can't say LifeWave products heal, diagnose, or cure anything, right? These are just things that we're seeing, because LifeWave products is a safe way to elevate your body's peptides to start repairing itself, right? So all we're doing is supporting our own body's natural way of repairing itself. And, I just wanted to share, I talked about glutathione. Guess what? We got glutathione patches, right? These are crazy powerful. Glutathione is good for detox. I know you have detox for, homeopathy also, but this is so much easier sometimes too for people that don't
Oh
want to take
yeah. Oh yeah. Slap a
it, right?
patch on. And if you feel like
Exactly.
you're getting a sore throat, or
Yep.
if you're going to be in a crowd of people that you're not normally around, and you don't want those germs, you patch up for
Exactly. I
that.
just pop
When
it
you,
right here,
yeah.
front and center,
And then
right?
when you do have that scratchy throat, you put a glutathione, it's gone.
It
You're not
goes
worried
right.
about waking up tomorrow and if you're going to have to call in sick or not.
Exactly, right? We got Aeon, or I still call it Ion. I think they like calling it Aeon, right? Which lower inflammation, and they do have a peptide on there that can do other things that I can't say on here, or I'm going to get in trouble. But it has with the big C. Let's just say the big C. It does help with that. And of course, the flagship, the X39, which does all three, which is crazy. It elevates your glutathione, lowers inflammation, but most importantly, it boosts your body's natural GHKCU, which is a natural peptide that we all should have if we're getting, these minerals in our food supply. Our body should be able to elevate it. And when it elevates, that's when the natural healing starts, right? That's when you can start creating stem cells. So I don't want to call this a stem cell patch, but it definitely activates your body for the ability to create stem cells. And that's what, most of us need more of, right? With all this damage that's literally being shotgun at us, it is so important for our bodies to have a natural way to repair itself. Non-transdermal, no drugs coming in. We were talking drugs all day long.
No
This has
drugs, no
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 drugs.
chemicals, no
Exactly.
additives. It's just reflecting the light that your body is producing anyway. That's
Exactly.
all it is. There's no chemical in that
Yes.
patch.
Right.
I
So
haven't
that is something that,
personally gone and taken it to a third party lab,
yes,
but the studies are there that do support that the whole patch series is designed with supporting your body to do what it does, and that's to be healthy and to repair itself.
exactly, right. And that's the thing why we really love the product. So, definitely reach out to me or to Amanda. We're both how would they say, LifeWave practitioners, right? And we use that to support, what we do, right? It's not the only thing
Right.
that we do, but it is definitely a protocol that is easy to use to support your health
Right.
and to balance your overactive immune system. So that's all I got for today. Once again, thanks for jumping into a very topic that no one wants to talk about, but I think
Mm.
it's something that everyone needs to hear. And
Mhm.
once again, like both me and Amanda says, like always, we encourage comments, regardless if it's good or bad. It's all right because
Yep.
everyone has their opinion, right? All we are doing is sharing information out there for the people that can't find it. The information, like you said,
Or we're giving you something to go look up. If you
yes,
don't believe us and you don't agree with our opinions, go find
mhm,
and create your own opinion and do your research. I would
exactly,
love to be wrong about so much of this,
exactly,
but
exactly.
the work that I've done in my life experience, I stand by what I say.
It is so true. It is so true. And before we go, we've been doing, we put together the Chronic Health Collective Masterclass, right? And we already passed our first weekend, Um, you
That was
know,
a wowzer weekend. There was so much information, just it was a lot.
exactly, exactly. So it's not too late to sign up for it, right? You can sign up at chronichealthcollective.com, right? And we still have the free replays till the end of the week. So if you missed last weekend, if you sign up now, you still be able to see that. Once the second week drops in, once Friday comes, those replays are gone. The only way you'll be able to see those is to buy the all access pass for $29.97. So you can buy from here, chronichealthcollective.com. Both me and Amanda is going to give you the direct links in our comments. If you want to purchase that, that's something I would really recommend because, like you said, over the last weekend, there were so much aha moments. You're teaching how to heal with the innate embody, listening to your body. I thought that was powerful. We shared a bunch of health busting myths. That was sort of fun, but we had so many guests on there that just gonna blow your mind.
Oh,
And
and our guests and our panel is not all about physical health. I mean, we're
yes.
talking financial health, relationships.
Mhm,
We're talking about everything that contributes to you having a healthy outlook on life, all of the components that come together that make you you.
mhm.
It was just a ton of information, ton of information.
Exactly. And this coming weekend, if you're having any problems with relationships, I wouldn't miss this weekend. We got two coaches that are my English is coming in. Relationship specialists, right? So if you're having problems with your marriage or having problem finding your next guy, you had a crappy marriage, you don't want to miss this weekend. We got Samantha Kaua and Leandra Frey. That is amazing. That's going to change your life because relationships is very important. That is a very integral
Well, I
part of
don't even know that you necessarily have to be experiencing a problem to benefit.
yes,
I mean,
exactly.
'cause you're gonna see trends that are happening, and hopefully you can stave off anything being a problem in the
Mhm.
relationship that you have. You can take these tips and make it a stronger, better relationship before it breaks down. So
I love how you said that.
I would reword that, Andy.
I love how you said that because like even in this last year with Samantha, interviewing Samantha, her dropping her tips, I have learned many things to improve my relationship. That's all I can say. Right. And I'm pretty sure Mina could attest to that. I don't know if she's making any changes. She's perfect the way she is. And I'm hoping she hears this right now. I'm doing my, my good husband routine. But like you said, there's always improvements in every aspect of our
There
life. It's
is.
not just about health and fitness, right? We are
Right.
hitting every aspect from financial to business to your children's education, everything. So yeah, please go on to Chronic Health Collective. You learn a little bit more about us. Both me and Amanda are, part of the coaches there. But more importantly, we really want everyone to have balance in their life because we talked about balance right in the beginning.
Right. Balance and harmony.
Exactly. All right, that puts another week in for the Fountain of Youth. We hope everyone learned something to live a little younger today. And once again, please reach out to us, through our Facebook, YouTube, whatever, right? We would
Yep.
love to hear any comments or any topics you guys want to learn more about. Hit us up. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.